Hey, I'm back, and it's time for a quick little code along where usually what I do with these code alongs is try and just synthesize the things that we've learned individually on the slides and build something slightly more substantial, putting the pieces together. But I'm also going to introduce something we haven't seen, which are nested conditionals. So in a 2-second preview, it's just a if instead of an if. Okay, so what we're going to do is build a very silly bouncer program that just asks for a user's age. And in the US at least, you can often get into concerts if you are older or if you're over 18, but you can't drink until you're over 21. So sometimes you have to wear like a special wristband if you're 18 or 19 or 20. And then if you're below 18, you can't get in at all. So we'll build a super simple little program that spits out text depending on an input age. But then we're also going to handle errors, kind of very rough handling of errors. For example, if a user doesn't type in an age at all, it will break our code, but we're going to add in a little conditional check to prevent that. Okay, so I have a file. I called it bouncer.py. Call it whatever you want. And I'll start by just laying out the rules or the pseudocode. So we ask for age, and then our ages are between 18 and 21. You wear wristbands. If you're 21 plus, you can drink, normal entry, and finally, otherwise you're too young. Okay, so let's start by asking for age. So we'll just write age equals input. How old are you? And I'll add a space here just so we don't end up with that weird kind of text running into each other on the command line. And then let's just start right off with our if. So we'll change this around as we go through this, but we'll start with just an if, and let's just check if a user is between, or an age is between 18 and 21. So we're going to do if age is greater than or equal to 18 and age is less than 21. We don't want less than or equal to 21 because if you are 21 in the US, you can drink. So if that's the case, we'll print out you can enter but need a wristband. Now here's the thing. This isn't going to work right off the bat. Can you tell why? And the answer is that it has to do with data types. Remember that this comes in as a string. The value returned from input in age is a string. And here we're comparing strings to numbers, and that won't work. If you tried it here, let's say somebody entered that they are 19. So as a string, is 19 greater than or equal to 18? And the answer is no, because type error, greater than or equal to not supported between string and int. So that's our problem. So we need to solve that. And the simplest way of fixing that we've seen is to cast things as ints. So it's fine for us to assume that ages are going to be whole numbers. So we could do int age and int age just like this. And if we run this code now, it is Python 3 bouncer. How old are you? 19. You can enter but need a wristband. And just to make sure, if I enter 2, we get nothing. Okay, so that's good. Next up, let's handle the case where you're older than 21. So that's an elif int age is greater than or equal to 21. If that's the case, we will print you are good to enter and can drink. Okay, the last thing we need is our colon here at the end. And if we try running this now, Python 3 bouncer, how old are you? If we're 18, we get you can enter but need a wristband. If we are 25, you're good to enter and can drink. Perfect. So let's add in our else, which will just be print you can't come in, little one, and let's add a sad face. So let's test it, and this time we'll enter 9. Can't come in, but everything else still works, right? If we have 18, you can enter, but you need a wristband. And if we are 67, you're good to enter and can drink. So this seems good. There are a couple problems. Well, there's one main problem, which is if a user just hits enter, empty string doesn't work when we're running int on age, and we have an empty string. Int is going to freak out and give us this invalid literal for int with base 10. Basically doesn't know how to turn that into an integer. So what we're going to do is add a simple if statement to check if it's an empty string or not. And so what we want to do, what we could do is say if age is equal to or is not equal to empty string, we could do this and then indent everything inside of that if. The other option, and we can actually start with that. So let me just rearrange my comments a bit. And remember, indentation, well, it doesn't matter for the comments except to make it clear what's happening, but it does matter when we're dealing with nested if statements. So we have if age is not equal to the empty string, all of this is going to be indented because we only want to check the ages and turn it into an integer if it's not an empty string. And if it is, so we'll add an else, we'll just print, please enter an age. Okay, so let's see what happens now. Oh, looks like we're missing our colon. There we go. Try that again. How old are you? If I hit enter, it says please enter an age, but if I enter 12, it says you can't come in, little one. Now this check, I should be clear, is only working for empty strings. We still have the problem of someone entering a or this as their age. We're not going to solve that in this video. There's not a super easy way. We will learn a way of handling errors and trying, well, we'll get there. But for now, we're just focusing on the case of an empty string if a user just hits enter. So we could do it this way. The other option is to do it with a kind of shorter shortcut, taking advantage of the fact that an empty string is falsy. So all we can do is say if age, do this. Otherwise, print please enter an age. So remember, if there's anything in age, A, 1, 2, whatever the number or text in there, it's truthy. But if it's empty, it's falsy, meaning this will be triggered. So this is an easier way of doing it. If there's an age, do this math. The other change I would support, first, let's just make sure it works. Oh my gosh, I keep forgetting my colons. Try that again. We enter an age, it works. If I just hit enter though, it says please enter an age. Now, what we could do is refactor this int age. We're casting age to an int multiple times. And the fact is we're not using age anywhere except as an integer. So it would be better just to do age equals int age and then get rid of all of these instances where we're casting it, just like that. So this is more of just a stylistic thing. There's no reason to continually turn it into an integer. Just do it once inside this if statement, because if we did this up top, if we did it here, we would encounter that problem. If they didn't enter an age, it was an empty string, it would break our program. So we're going to leave it like this. Okay, and let's make sure this works now. We are 19, you can enter. We're 21, you can enter and drink, and we are 8, you can't come in. And if we hit empty string, please enter an age. Okay, so this all works good. I just want to hit home a couple things. The indentation really matters. Like it has with our single if statements, it also matters if we want these to be nested inside of this if. So for this code to run, this has to be true. But for this code to run, this has to be true and this has to be true. So that's important, and we could keep nesting these further and further and further. The other thing I could point out, you don't have to do nested statements like this. We could rewrite the whole thing by saying if age and I'll just copy this right here. So we could rewrite this first bit at least by just putting it all in one giant if statement. If age exists and age is greater than or equal to 18 and age is less than 21, then we'll print you can enter but need a wristband. And then we could also say elif age and age is greater than or equal to 21, and we don't need the parentheses on this one. Then we could print you are good to enter and can drink. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here, where basically we just put this part in front of each of these and it's the same idea, but this is much nicer and shorter and cleaner, and you can see how things are related. Because we're using an and, remember, if this was false, the whole thing is false. Well, if this is false, all of this is false. Never even runs. All right. The only other change I would suggest is we're not really doing this the most efficient way. We could do a check where we don't actually need an and at all. We could start by checking. So I will just duplicate this down here. Let me comment that all out. We could start by checking first if age is greater than or equal to 21. That's the first thing. And we'll say, you can come and drink. So I'll get rid of some of these comments. You're good to enter and can drink. And then the next thing that we'll do, if they're not greater than or equal to 21, that means they are already less than 21. So all we have to do is check, okay, are you greater than or equal to 18? In which case you can enter but need a wristband, else you're too young. So just to walk through what we did, remember the only way to get to this is for this to not be true. So we don't have to do this and between 18 and 21. If the first thing we're doing is checking if they're over 21, we're going to print you're good to enter and you can drink. But if they're not over 21 or equal to 21, that means they are less than 21. So this already inherently means they're less than 21, but greater than or equal to 18. So that's a way of saying between 18 and 21. And then if that's not true, it means they're definitely somewhere lower than 18. So we get this else. Hopefully that refactor makes sense. It's kind of cleaner and easier to understand what's happening. Versus up here, we had to use that and. But I am going to keep this file with both of them, just so you can see, if you want to look back at the solution code, you can see how I did it. Once again, forgot my colon. This time I caught it. Let's just make sure this works. Our refactored version. How old are you? I'm 10. You can't come in. How old are you now? I'm 98. I'm good to enter and can drink. And now I am 20. And finally, empty string, please enter an age. All right, so hopefully that made sense. Hopefully the video makes sense and everything in the course makes sense. As always, that's my hope. But really here, what I wanted to make clear was the fact that we can do nested statements, and then also the problem with the input and having to convert things. But really the main point I'd like to make here, aside from just hitting home how if and elif and else work, is that we can nest them together. And remember, indentation matters in Python. All right, so we have a quiz after this, and then next we're actually going to build a simple little game of rock, paper, scissors.